right, so we are live. Karen, you want to do a sound check?
Check, check.
Okay.
Amy, guess what?
What?
I ordered your book, and you know what?
You did?
Amazon's having a hard time getting it to me.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That's a hard why don't I just email you or mail you a copy? Because me coming up against the big giant of Amazon to figure it out might be a little hard.
I placed it on June 27th, and it shows in my outbox here, and I say track package, and it says ordered, and it's stuck between ordered and shipped. Do they have enough?
Can you cancel it?
Mm-hmm. It says cancel items.
Because I just launched a magic summer sale directly from my website, and you'll probably get it cheaper, and you'll get it straight with like some fun goodies with it too. Some magical.
Ooh.
Oh,
gotta have goodies.
Yeah. Yeah, so, cancel it and get it straight from my website under the shop.
Okay. Let's see. I'm going to say it's saying items would not arrive on time.
And thank you for that, by the way.
Well, I was curious.
Well, when did and the book we're talking about, Create Magic at Work, when was that published?
Mm-hmm. So, okay, pandemic time. So it came out in summer of 2020.
Okay.
The pandemic hit, and I get when was it? And then I have a new version that just launched that has some additional things inside of it.
Some lessons learned during the pandemic, I guess.
Well, it's a book of activities for leaders. So the new version has, let's call it a take a look in the mirror shadow work section.
Ooh.
What I see in others is actually within me, or what bothers me in others might actually be within me, and how do I work through that?
What bothers you in others? Now say
John,
that again.
you say this all the time.
I say this all the time.
Because you say the things that drive you nuts about your mom are the things that
I hate about myself.
And that's even our boys. You say the same thing.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, it's shadow work. It's known in the psychology world with Carl Jung and his work. And it's, if something is really irritating me about someone else, where have I shoved that down in my subconscious and ignored it within myself? And then also within, I know we're talking about leaders in the workplace, but, within personal relationships, a lot of times it can be positive too, where you see all these beautiful qualities in someone else that you're not recognizing within yourself, that you have those. And that's how you end up thinking someone's so great when you're falling in love.
Oh.
Well, then that goes away. I'm kidding.
Yes, then it goes away.
I'm kidding.
And hopefully you realize you have all of those beautiful things, and then you work through all of the other stuff that you're supposed to with your relationship, because it's supposed to be a mirror for you.
That
it's super fun.
It's so helpful. It's helpful because really your inner monologue, my self monologue, is my worst critic, and I don't know what the ratio is, but it's probably 10-1 negative comments to myself rather than positive comments. I think that's a human thing, hon. If you think about it, I hear you calling yourself idiot all the time. So
on the pickleball court.
Well, yeah, you kind of are an idiot on the pickleball court. I'm kidding. So I want to talk about this whole concept of creating magic at work, because you said it was published summer of 2020. So obviously there was a lot going on in the world in 2020.
Yes.
But to get it published then, that means you were working on it far before the pandemic. And so this is now what came first? Was it the book that came first? And then I guess your podcast just launched this year, right? So the book came prior to that. But was this a training module you'd had in play already? Where did this come from? I guess is what's the origin of Create Magic at Work?
Yeah. So if we went all the way back to when I was a corporate executive, this is the the last job I had before I started this, I had about over 400 employees. I was managing a little over $35 million a year in operating income.
Okay.
And I felt like my creativity was really stifled in the workplace. That's where all this came from. And I needed to get results. I knew I wasn't going to be in this position for much longer because I knew I needed a life change. I had done a lot of life purpose inner work with some things that I had been through. So I planned on leaving my job for an entire year.
Wow.
And what's interesting to me when I think back about it now is the plan that I put in place was not for myself, which I didn't even realize this. I was, how do I want to leave my team feeling? What impact do I want to leave? And part of it was ego. Part of it was, I want to prove that bringing people together in a connecting way actually wins with productivity and profitability, rather than putting people against each other in unhealthy competition. And so since I knew I was leaving, I just started doing these connecting activities with my team at work that helped them skill build in emotional intelligence and spiritual intelligence. I didn't tell them that's what we were doing, but if we had a quarterly business review that was difficult or grueling, which we had many, we would end with these connecting activities. And that's what everyone remembers. And that's what makes the impact. And that's what freed me up as their leader to actually do my job. Because now these individuals were so much closer with each other that they would call each other up in the same position. I don't know their position. And they would collaborate. And we were very profitable. I earned multiple President Club trips. It was really cool. And so when I left my job, I planned on traveling through the summer and writing my book, and I put all these activities in the book.
Right.
So they were kind of my guinea pigs and didn't know it at the time, I guess. And it just sort of came about that way. And I really just wanted to share this. And it's quick. It's not a deep read. It's something a leader can just grab on their desk, like, oh my gosh, I have a Zoom meeting in half an hour. I don't have the creative capacity because I've been in this Excel spreadsheet for hours to now I have to do something to bring everyone together.
Mm-hmm.
Let me flip through this and get an idea. And thank you, Amy, for doing this for me. That was the way I envisioned it, because I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like to be like, gosh, I got to come up with something now. And then you're stressed about it. So hopefully they can use that, and that it's also a jumping off point for their own creativity.
I love it.
Were you planning to leave? You said you were planning to leave your job for a year.
I was, yeah.
What was the driving force? You were just done with corporate?
Yeah. Yeah, I was, I couldn't do it anymore. I was exhausted. I didn't have a personal life. I didn't have any sort of outlet for my creativity and my spirituality. And so I needed to leave and create this and then re-inject it back into the workplace, is the way I envision what I'm doing now.
What an awesome way to describe it. I think, for probably your own mental and emotional and spiritual well-being, it was time to disconnect. And you mentioned the magic word spirituality. And because I did want to talk a little bit about this and get into detail. You are a spiritual coach. And we mentioned this is not, it's an agnostic term. It means it's not talking about a religious coach, but a spiritual coach. That's unique. That stands out. So is this something that you decided to pursue after you left corporate America, or was it something that you had already tapped into?
So I had already tapped into my own spirituality, which is, that deeper sense of meaning in life, moments of feeling like we are all one, moments outside of time, just to give some examples. And what really happened was it just came along the journey. So when I left my job, I wrote the book. I attended UC Berkeley's Executive Coaching Institute. So I'm an executive coach certified from UC Berkeley. And then I left that and I was combining spirituality and business. And then I discovered the SQ21, which is the 21 skills for the workplace for spiritual intelligence, which is the up level to EQ. Mm-hmm. And so I really, I really am not as passionate about EQ because I think SQ is where it's at. And it is what every high level leader needs to understand and skill build in. It's a faith neutral system. It is the top of the pyramid as far as intelligences go. And it basically, if you practice these skills, what it helps you build muscle in is the ability to make wise and compassionate decisions while maintaining inner and outer peace, regardless of whatever situation you're in. And I've been in a lot of meeting rooms where sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, I guess I hear, compassion and spirituality and another term you just used, but I'm curious as to how do men respond to that? I'm sorry to say this, but men don't seem to really tap into those a lot in business, as far as my experience, right? So I'm curious as to, is there a shift? Are men starting to open up and grasp these concepts, or do they tend to be reject them or not be as open as women?
Such a great question. Here's what I'm finding. I'm finding that, and I found this before I left my job, because the majority of individuals on my team were men.
Oh, okay.
And they have not been afforded a safe space to show vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's a welcome place for them to come into if they want to explore these high level leadership skills. And I think they're relieved because they're actually given permission with the data. Data always works with this. They're actually given permission with the data to explore these skills because the data is there that it improves productivity and profitability. Once they are able to tap into those skills, sky's the limit. And like the bottom line is, most leaders are men in high level leadership roles. So I think they should feel called to explore something like this to really make an impact. Because when you talk about quantum leadership, it's more than answering to your shareholders or your customers or your employees. It's more about what is the ripple effect that you're going to leave in the world, and how can we create businesses that impact our communities and humanity.
So pretty high aspirational goals. Those are, I mean, you're setting the bar high. That's a great way to look at it, though.
Yeah, the bar is set high. And I think when you are a leader, you are called to do the work because it's a gift to be in a leadership role. And making sure that you're a good steward for your team is the number one thing you should be doing.
Gosh, I really hope that more men would see that. I'm sorry, not mean, but it is.
I do have a lot of clients that are men, yeah. and you know what's interesting? If I'm thinking of all of the men that have been clients of mine, a lot of them want to take me right to, there's 21 skills that we start off talking about. And the encouraging thing is they always want to talk about skill 19, which is making wise and compassionate decisions. I never lead the conversation. They inevitably always want to go there.
Right.
Oftentimes it's because they want to learn how to do that, which is so encouraging, with maybe people that might get on their nerves that they have to deal with at work.
Right.
Just, like to take, we're talking about these way high concepts and I'm like, okay, somebody gets on your nerves at work, but it's true. And so how do I lead and set those feelings aside? How do I access my inner wisdom? How do I access my higher power, if I believe in a higher power, to help guide me to move through my day, to make better decisions for the people I'm in charge of. So, yeah.
Well,
and then the ultimate is, sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You were great.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say the ultimate is how do we lead with the knowledge that you are a tiny piece of the history of the universe. And how do we live in this paradox where your life is just extremely profound and a tiny piece of the history of the universe? And can you make leadership decisions from that space? That's what working on these skills every day can hopefully help you get to. And you're going to mess up and you're going to lose it and you're going to make mistakes. And we say, thank you for the lesson. I'm going to keep trying.
That's fantastic. Because I think with leaders, a lot of times, you said being a leader is a gift, which I think is absolutely true. And you didn't say manager, you said leader, which is an important distinction. I think that, as a leader, it's incumbent upon you you have to be the thermostat, not the thermometer. You've got to set that temperature and create an environment that allows people to, there's a lot of different ways that, like we do DISC training, for instance, communication training, and knowing how to communicate to actually get your point across to somebody who annoys you to death because they're too slow making decisions or something, but that's their comfort zone. So it's incumbent upon you to adjust your style. And that's something that can be tactical, but what you're talking about is something that you really have to sort of, you have to embed that as a new skill and a new way of thinking, as opposed to just, okay, well, this person's slow to act, slow to speak, so I need to provide more data and back off. I can do that. As opposed to, okay, I need to be really compassionate and I need to listen and I need to actively listen and be empathetic about what this person's telling me, even though my immediate response is, cry me a river, I've got a desk full of stuff. One of those things. So that's a big leap for some people to take, I think.
And I think that women it comes more naturally. I don't know. Maybe I'm making an overgeneralization, but I can just only pull from my experience. And that was really how I tried to lead when I had a team, is it wasn't reciprocated by who I reported to. And so maybe it was because of that situation that I really grasped hold of, those concepts and tried to implement them with my team, because it was what I wanted and wasn't receiving. So, maybe it was just as a result of that. But
to me, that's bringing the feminine energy that's missing in the workplace. We've been thrown into systems that were created for men by men historically, and now you had this beautiful opportunity to say, hey, I have some gifts that are different here that I can bring, and I can actually help you shine a light on these gifts that might have been shoved down because you felt like this wasn't the place to do this. The be brief, be bright, be gone sort of motto. Mm-hmm. And I worked in all that. I would get super brief replies from my supervisor, like even answering a question with just a letter, like why or in, yes or no, just why, go do it. Like we've been trained in these systems to, really cut the human out. And so now I think what you're talking about is bringing that energy back in a little bit more. And it's creating a better balance. It's helping people feel like they can be more whole.
Yeah. And do you feel that, because we're raising 2 young men, right, who I feel they haven't been exposed to the corporate world yet, right? And but in raising them and knowing this millennial generation, I think that it may look very different in the next 20 years as far as leadership. I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see if it changes organically because the different values and the different behaviors that I'm seeing in these young people. Does that make sense?
I completely agree. Yeah, and I think it's really encouraging too.
I do too.
Because so emotional intelligence has gained a lot of traction in the corporate workspace. And now here I'm talking about spiritual intelligence. How cool is that?
Right.
And tapping into these skills that bring the whole humanness of who you are to the workplace. And I want to go back to something that there were 2 things, John, that you mentioned. One was, how do I adapt as a leader my listening skills for a team member that's coming to me with something, right? Even when I feel overwhelmed. And I just want to offer a couple of things that I think would be great for the listeners to think about. When you're in a leadership role, you do have employees that come to you quite a bit that share information with you that is sensitive. It just happens. I heard this really cool concept from, he's he's in charge of employee experience at UCSF, the hospital, and he's also a colleague of mine. And he said, his name's Aaron Tobacco. He says, it's no longer I'm listening to understand, because that old phrase, I'm not listening to respond, I'm listening to understand. Well, he's like, let's next level this. Let's just listen to bear witness in that moment. And what that does is it takes the backpack off to where you feel like you have to do something right away, or you have to fix something right away for someone. If someone is sharing something with you, all you have to do in that moment is listen to bear witness. You can figure out what next steps are maybe later. But when he shared that, I just thought it was so profound, because it helps you practice detachment as a leader. And so that was the next concept I wanted to share with what you brought up. Is Dr. Angelise Arian is an anthropologist who studied cultures all around the world. And she found that there were 4 principles for universal communication, no matter what the culture was. The first was show up and choose to be present. The second was pay attention to what has heart and meaning. The third is tell the truth without blame or judgment. And the fourth is be open to outcome, but not attached to it.
Ooh.
Wait. Give me that fourth one. Sorry.
Open to outcome, but not necessarily.
But not attached to it.
Attached to it.
And by the way, one of the skills as a leader that you can work on in spiritual intelligence is being a calming and healing presence. One of the main factors in being a calming and healing presence is detachment. Wow. I'm open to outcome, but I'm not attached to it.
So
I will not force
on that.
Yeah.
So prior to our call,
okay.
So John and I, we're spending a lot of time together. We're working together. We're building a company together. We're podcasting together. There's a lot of together here. And so obviously there's going to be some friction sometimes. So right before we got on a call with you the last time was one of those situations. And I'll tell you, I mean, I was so flustered. And we got off the call with you, and whatever you did, you worked your magic. He had that change of heart.
Oh, you're talking about like our intro call.
Yes.
Yeah. We
got you did. You had a therapy session. You didn't even know it. Right?
No, I could feel it.
You could? Okay. So we get off the call.
Yeah.
That's because Amy, every example she would use of somebody that had some sort of challenging behavior, you would use me as the example, Karen. So
is that why it was so
I
obvious?
didn't know I was using you, but you were looking at him when I was saying everything, like, oh, see, or yeah. So I picked up a little bit
timing.
on that.
Perfect
the nonverbal indicator.
Yes, well, it was perfect timing, and you truly did help him too.
I want to go back to the 4 universal rules, though, just to make sure I got this right. So show up and be present. Pay attention to what has heart and matters. Is that right?
They're universal communication principles in communicating with others.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And who was the doctor?
Show up and choose to be present.
Choose to be present.
Her name is Angelise Arian. She's an anthropologist. Yeah.
That's really pretty amazing, because it's the same stuff that you hear. I mean, you hear this stuff. I can remember, I forget why, but for a while we must have done some leadership course or something, and be present. That was a big one. And I've got ADD off the charts, and so one of Karen's biggest challenges for me is just keeping me, hey, over here. And so I put something on my computer and everything that says be present, it was a reminder or whatever. So those concepts have been around, but I don't think, whatever I did to try to cure that, it didn't stick. So I mean,
it takes practice.
Well, yeah, you're right. Thank you, honey, for the feedback.
Well, that's why I'm being very patient with you. I'm trying to constantly bring you into the present.
It's just these concepts, and they're universal. That's amazing, because I guess the whole, because when you mentioned detachment, and while you're saying it, and and I can see my wife nodding along because she gets it, and I'm thinking, oh man, as a man, if I detach myself and am I not doing enough? I didn't offer any solution. I didn't offer any advice or what. And God knows, a lot of times people don't want it. They don't want the advice, but we feel like they came to me for something. Is that enough for me to just I love the term, by the way, listen to bear witness. That's awesome, because it really does say that you're there to really capture what that person's saying. But if I don't then have something that I'm offering, sometimes I feel like I just didn't give them what they were looking for. That would be my challenge. And so do you come across that when people just going, I don't know, it's hard for me to feel like I actually did something?
But why do you have to feel like you have to do something?
I don't know.
Is this the nail in the head thing moment where a man just feels like he has to fix something or do something, or what is he good for?
Amy's waiting
She's
for
chewing
somebody.
On that.
She's chewing on that one. Yeah, it's like that.
Can you hear me?
I didn't know if he was going to answer that. So I can share. I'll tell you what I'm.
No, I want to hear what you have to say.
So as leaders, we have been rewarded for always having the answer in the systems that we've worked in so far, and it's mainly been men. So feeling like you have to immediately solve a problem, I feel that way a lot. We're talking about personal relationships with my boyfriend and his business. I have a little bit more acumen. So I'm always like, do this, solve this. Like, I want to do this. And then you have to remember, take a step back. And this is what we were talking about in the pre-interview. It's not your journey. It's theirs. And that actually takes a huge weight off of you as well. How are you to know what the best path is for them? Maybe their mistake is the perfect mistake for them at that time. And who are you to know what the universe or God or whoever you believe in has planned for them? How can you even fathom that? You can't. And a part of detachment, to what John is saying, is what you don't want to do. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to maintain a spirit of discovery. You want to stay curious. You want to ask meaningful questions. That puts you in a coach role. And if the person that you are communicating with needs mentorship or advice, maybe after a few discovery questions, you can ask them that. Are you looking for advice in this situation? Or do you want me to help you find the answer with some curious questions? Something along those lines. Forcing solutions onto problems can possibly create more problems. And that's where Dana Zohar talks about this in The Quantum Leader, understanding that innovation and inspiration can actually come from being on the edge of chaos or from mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
That's where quantum leaps often occur.
Man, that's
so those
awesome.
are my
That's
thoughts
awesome.
on that.
You know, we were just talking earlier with another person who's going to be a guest at some point, and her I think that's her mantra is, you know, work, the future of work is chaos. I mean, and out of this chaos comes opportunity, and like you just said, it could be an opportunity for a quantum leap and all that. And that comes from, and because within chaos there is still a system. It is still a process somehow. So that's really wild that you just said that too. And the big curious part is definitely, that's something I have to remind myself in a lot of different things you do. You ask questions instead of telling your opinion, which, you know, it's a reactionary thing. You probably, it's a habit that you get used to after years of acting the same way. And a lot of times you're having these conversations with subordinates. And so I sometimes I feel like it's just implied that they're coming to me for something more than just to bear witness. So that, but you know what? You said that who am I to, you know, interrupt this great opportunity for them to maybe make a mistake or figure out their own solution or whatever has been predestined for them. Who am I to get in the way of that? That's a really cool way to kind of, I think, talk to myself when I'm in that situation.
Yeah, it's hard if you're practicing another way for so long. It's hard for all of us. But I just am thinking what cool results could come from that you could actually see. Like, whoa, I can't believe they accomplished this. There could be some really unexpected things that come from that.
Yeah, and you know what?
And
you can't replace hunger, and you can't replace somebody. You can't teach them hunger. You can't teach resiliency unless you give people the opportunity to be hungry and resilient. So sometimes you have to let them fall, and that's a hard thing to do too, especially like with your kids. It's hard.
yeah, that's typically the hardest, are personal relationships, when we really want to force journeys onto others because we think we know the right path with our partners, with our children. And it's because we know what has worked for us and we feel safe directing them on that path because it worked for us. But we're not that same person. And so what worked for us might not work for them.
Oh,
and
we're
so we
learning.
have to take a step back and maybe
Yeah.
and
So
maybe ask them questions. What works for them? Yeah.
hypothetically, what if you had like a 21-year-old son who is not doing the traditional path, and your quest in life is to try not to give him every piece of advice every day to the point where they just don't even want to listen to it anymore?
We're doing a much better job.
Yes.
I mean, you can only push so many times and it fails so many times before you go, okay, this is dumb. Let's regroup. And you know, it's great as parents. John and I are helping each other be calm and give him the space. Like, because when one wants to kill him, the other one goes, hey, here's the other perspective. Let's, he's young. He's got to, they just develop a little, boys especially develop slower than women. And that frontal lobe is not developed till they're in their mid-20s. And I keep reminding John of that. And that I didn't meet him until he was 34 and he wasn't married. So, I mean, you had a long time he's got time to come into his own. And as parents, just wanting to support them and their dreams and not get in the way of their destiny, right? And really, for us, it's God and allowing God to work in their lives and do the work that only He can, because it's proven. We have proven this to ourselves how many times, John, that no matter, our plans don't work out, but His always do. So, but I mean, it translates.
So that's the ultimate, right?
Right. Yeah.
How do I detach from this outcome?
Yes.
And be open to what God has planned for him.
Yes. Yes.
How do I watch that unfold with joy? How do I stay curious with that? Mm-hmm. And I mean, the 20s are definitely, for some of us, some real life lesson moments.
Oh, yes.
I know they were for me.
They were.
And it's in the adult development. Yeah, in the adult development theory, it's really around because you're talking about the brain and the frontal lobe. It's really that time where most humans are available to start developing EQ, is really around their mid to early 20s. So he'll get there. And that's where I can start having some self-awareness of my emotions. I can have an emotional management strategy. I can build connections. And then you get into the SQ. In the adult development theory, it parallels with your early 30s. So what's my purpose in life? What are my values? What is my definition of success? And am I living in alignment with that? Or am I just doing what I was told was successful by my parents? So he's maybe on like that fact-finding journey of what his definition of success might ultimately be.
I bet you are a phenomenal executive coach. You have got to be the best executive coach. I feel like I'm getting a session right now and I didn't even know it. I'm so convicted.
Thank you. I will receive that. I feel very grateful to have the clients that are attracted to me and that want to work with me, because I do get out of sessions and feel like, whoa. And it's all them that does the work, but they show up and do it, which is really cool.
It's so needed. So needed.
So tell me, I saw another development here recently. You are now an executive contributor and you've been selected. Tell me about this thing with Brains.
Oh,
that's a fun one. Yeah. So Brains magazine, I'm releasing 12 articles within a year to help develop leadership from an SQ perspective. So I have one out right now. I look at this as like the fun thing I get to do, the creative part. And this one is what are the Sunday scaries and how to get rid of them.
I saw that.
Overcome them.
I saw that article. I have not read it yet. Because I grew up we used to always call it the Sunday blues. You get to Sunday, it's like, oh man, go back to life tomorrow. Sunday
good friend of mine is like, my husband needs to listen, because I did a podcast on it too. And she says every Sunday, just out of the blue, his mood changes and he becomes so irritable. And it's that overwhelm and dread you feel when you have to go back to the work week. And so I offer some fun ways to work through that. It takes time. It's not a quick fix. But my articles are quick because your brain during COVID can only digest about 6 minutes or less, from what I hear lately.
Oh, really?
I'm reading, so I'm trying to keep them bite-sized. So yeah, you can check me out on there. I wanted to actually add a thought that I don't want to lose.
Ooh, go.
That John brought up about leadership presence. Really was what I felt you were referring to.
Mm-hmm.
And earlier you were talking about how a leader portrays themselves in some way. And I wanted to make sure that the listeners knew that we were talking about leadership as a gift and how you're called. If you are in this position, you are called to give your best self to others because you are put in this power position, right? There's actual data that shows that whatever energy space you're in as a leader, it ripples out to your team 10 times over because you're in a position of power. So if you're operating from a space of anger, fear, apathy, that's going to be multiplied by 10 to the people that are under your charge. Hopefully, you are a leader that does not want an organization of people operating from that space. So that's another reason why you are called to do your own work, to rise up, to put your ego aside and operate from that higher space, because guess what? That's going to ripple out 10 times over as well.
So what do you, I mean,
I didn't want to forget to mention that.
no, I'm glad you
I'm glad
did.
you did
But
too.
how do you, because a lot of it just happens so fast, right? So what what tools do you give, or what's the trick to stopping midstream? Because, just tend to just go, right? And do, and then you may reflect on it later, and then it's too late because the damage is done. So what trick do you have? Are there any tricks to just, do we have to have a safe word?
Well, this is, you could, that's actually a recommendation in couples therapy, is having a word
Right.
that so that's having an emotional management strategy.
Okay.
Because you have about 6 seconds before you're triggered, before your amygdala is really running the show, and you're in that fight, flight, or freeze mode.
Okay.
And then quick fixes would be breathing, because you're getting more oxygen to the neocortex of your brain. So you're opening it back up for more creative possibilities versus just the 3 of fight, flight, or freeze.
Okay.
I know some people are like, oh, breathe, and it annoys me too. Like, oh, I'm just going to breathe. But it does work because it brings more oxygen to your brain. And in one emotional management strategy, if you recognize you're triggered, you should start breathing. You should do at least I call it the 3-2-4. You inhale for 3 seconds, you hold it for 2, and then you exhale for 4. Before you speak, you practice the pause, you do some breathing, and see if you can't get other parts of your brain, playing a part in this versus just your fight, flight, or freeze mode. So that's one way. Another fun way is that actually is in my book.
Okay.
is creating an appreciation anchor. So it's you can just pick something that pushes back on your negativity bias. We automatically, and John mentioned it earlier, oh gosh, sometimes I have a lot of negative self-talk, and I just don't know sometimes how to get out of that. Well, creating an appreciation anchor helps, because the brain can't experience anxiety and gratitude at the exact same time. And I teach a lot of leaders to do this. So it's whatever has meaning for you. If you have a picture of your child on your desk, or your children, or if you have a special necklace that you can hold, or I had a client that had something from her father that had passed away that was special. So if it's like the elevated version of the stress ball.
Yeah.
Because what it does is, I've never said that before, but that's what I'm thinking
I like
right now.
it.
Because what it does is when you're holding it, your brain will flash to these moments of gratitude. Oh, I love my son. He's so amazing. And then you're pushing back on this negativity bias that's coming up when you're triggered. So those are some examples: the breathing, the creating an appreciation anchor, what means something to you where you can hold on to it and experience gratitude, to push back on that.
I love it.
Yeah.
I was just thinking of the movie Inception, where he carried around a little top to see if he was in a dream or not. Everybody had a little talisman. So, right.
I have to watch that. I haven't seen that movie.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, because you're deep on so many different levels. It's really neat as far as, spirituality and your knowledge of the physiology of the brain. And when did you first become so interested in this kind of topic matter? Because it's not your traditional business training or anything, but it definitely ties directly into our work lives. When did this first become your passion?
Oh gosh, it just sort of morphed over a few years. I feel like it's just what I'm called to share. I don't feel like I woke up one morning and was like, oh, it's this. It's been a journey, and it hasn't been smooth by any means. I've definitely had some times in the arena where I felt I've been knocked down because when you sign up to do this work, you have to do the work yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think there was a moment that I was like, aha. It's just been a journey. Like, I feel like I have my, this is going to sound cheesy, but I feel like I have my little, knapsack over my shoulder, and or have you heard of The Hero's Journey? Joseph Campbell?
I haven't.
It's like every human story. It's like every movie we watch, Star Wars, the hero goes through challenges. They meet guides along the way. That's all of our lives. We all experience the hero's journey. They go through trials, tribulations. They have their Yoda they might meet, which hopefully I like to see myself as someone's guide along their life journey when they come to work with me. And then ultimately we want the hero to succeed at the end. And I just feel like I'm on a journey in that way. And so I've made a lot of mistakes, but I try to do radical self-forgiveness and keep going.
Ooh,
and every year every year I pick a skill to work on deeply in spiritual intelligence. And I get so excited when I choose one. And then I'm like, oh gosh, when I start getting the lessons that start showing up in my life, I'm like, why did I pick
this one?
And then exactly. And this year, my number one focus is, how can I seek guidance from my higher self, my inner wisdom? How can I put my ego in service to my higher self, not operate from my ego? And I thought that would be an easier road than some other ones I've chosen. And it's been interesting. It's been challenging.
You used that phrase before, the ego versus the higher self. For the layperson, kind of give me sort of your way of explaining that, ego versus higher self.
Yeah. So we talked about fight, flight, or freeze. I think that's a good way to envision it. That's really most likely when your ego is operating in your life, is out of scarcity, out of fear, power, control, feeling like there's limited resources. Those are some good examples. Higher self is more that place where you feel like you're in flow, is the way I can put it, where you tap into this feeling that there's a light within you, or what some people call soul or spirit, or this essence within you that you can even talk to and access, that doesn't have all of that external ego stuff on it. Just how do I operate from love and compassion? Higher self or higher power.
That's awesome.
This is why I was so excited about getting your book. Now I remember. I know there's more work to be done on me, so I'm not afraid to admit it. But I think these are it's so important. And I'm 49. I'm not done growing. I haven't accomplished everything that was set out for me to accomplish. I don't know what those things are, but these are some just such important concepts to think about, discuss, and then and apply and learn. And I think there can be tremendous growth from that. And not only that, but I mean, as examples to our kids too, right? So yeah. What were you going to say?
I could go on and on about ego versus heart, but it's a skill. It's a skill in the assessment when you start as a client with me. Is we get a level of what your awareness is with your ego versus your higher self. We can have a deep discussion about that, what that feels like in your body. Everybody's different. What it feels like to get back to your higher self. Interesting story. I have some clients, because they are high-level leaders or even executive coaches or existing coaches that want to add these tools to their toolbox. They'll score really, really high in their awareness of their ego versus their higher self, or operating from their higher self, which is amazing. One interesting thing to think about is the final ego trap is guru. And so when you become a leader in a high level position, you really want to, I don't know how else to say this, but be able to check yourself and make sure that you're still working towards impact versus adoration.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that a punch in the face? I'm just kidding. No, I mean, it's really wow.
Yeah, I was an aha for me when I was like, oh my gosh,
right.
Final trap, guru.
Well, what am I going to do, honey? We talked about this one time. Whatever my superpower would be, I figures people like me for some reason. That's it. If I don't have that, what else? What am I going to do? I got to learn something.
Well, I think
you have a lot of strengths.
It's living in that polarity. Yeah, and I think we need to know we're making impact. We need to hear that. So I think it's holding that polarity and balance, and not making sure you're out of balance on the adoration side. If you're looking for feedback to know that you're making an impact, I think that's really good. But if you're just looking for it because you want to be adored, and that's the only reason, then maybe take a pause and reevaluate.
I don't like the knowing, condescending look I'm getting from my wife right now. It's kind of what I'm.
No, I'm not. I'm even actually, when I said punch in the face, like I took that on me as well, and I'm learning too, because I have to. There are situations with us where my ego wants to, and I'm having to pull back, because I know that I'm not going to. It's not who I want to be. It's not the kind of relationship that I want to have. And so I'm being I'm trying to be present and recognize those situations and stop myself before I do what's natural. Right. But it's taking practice, and that's good, because there's growth in that. So I don't always do it. I'm trying to. And yeah, so I'm not looking just at you, John.
I know. I'm just
looking
kidding.
at myself as well.
I'm kidding. And you know what? If you're I shouldn't say most people. A lot of people listen when they're driving, and I know that there's probably been about 20 things here that I've written down that are like these great things. just, make sure you pull over, because you can you can write all these down. You've got so many great little, I see like 10 little sticky note thing reminders I could put on myself. That's just from talking with you for an hour. If people want to learn more about what you do or contact you, should they go through LinkedIn? What's the best route to learn more about what you're up to, Amy?
You can just direct message me on LinkedIn under Amy Lynn Durham. And then my website is createmagicatwork.net. And you can schedule with me there as well, and we can have a chat. But don't be afraid to reach out. I like being here, as hopefully you can tell, as a support and a resource. This is what I feel called to do. So also Instagram is a fun space for me to play around on. So Create Magic at Work on Instagram. That's a fun one. And that's where I do the weekly workplace message.
And you want to tell people what that is real quick? Because you mentioned that.
Sure. Yeah, it's I pull a card from a journal prompt card deck that I authored, and each week I give you an energetic theme for your work or for your career, and some coaching questions to think about for that week.
And that's on Instagram. Create Magic at Work is the handle on Instagram.
Yeah, Create Magic at Work.
Well, that's good. I'll start following that one for sure.
Okay, and tell everyone again where to get your book, because I'm doing it right now. And but what do I get extra from going through Create Magic at Work? I like
what goodies?
Yeah, I don't know when this is. I don't know when this is actually going to air, but right now we're doing this huge summer sale. So if you go to createmagicatwork.net and click on shop,
that's
for the next 2 to 3 weeks, I believe everything is cut down in price. So the website's the way to go right now.
We will publish this within a week, so it'll be up here. Plenty of time for people to take advantage of that. Yeah, that's great.
Now, what is
and I'm doing a SQ. Sorry.
Go ahead. You're doing a what?
I wanted to share. I'm doing an SQ summer experience. So if anyone's interested in dipping their toes as like a beginner into learning about spiritual intelligence, reach out to me. I take everyone through right to the first day of fall, and it's a really low time commitment, but you'll learn what skill level you're at and some great ways to integrate these tools into your leadership.
Now, let me ask you this real quick. I should have asked this earlier, but do you work with just high level? Like what is it? Any leadership level? Is it just the executive level? What is your?
So lately it's been high level leaders or existing coaches, like executive coaches. A ton of leaders in HR are called to, that's why I love that I'm on this podcast, because spiritual intelligence has really resonated with the HR community. And a lot of my clients are from HR, which has been interesting to me, because I was in the cutthroat sales environment and we were always hiding from HR.
That's what I'm
saying. I'm like, this is cool. This is fun. Yeah. But so I definitely have enjoyed the tide turning. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Well, so I'm from the sales side too, right? Where I feel like I think it's great that you're getting the HR, but I mean, we got to get this out there on a broader scale, because I'm telling you what, the sales world needs it. Sales leadership world, it's needed. I mean, it's the reason I'm in the position I am in today and won't go back to corporate America. So anything we can do to spread the word and take that beyond HR. I mean, isn't HR already considered more like of the...
What? Go ahead, say it.
No, I shouldn't.
No, I'm kidding. Whatever you say is true. I mean, I fell into HR, but most people who know me know that I cut my teeth on being an HR business partner with the sales group, sales organization, global pharmaceutical sales. So you can imagine I've seen, and I came from a sales background prior to that too, which probably is why that was a good match for me. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know what, in every sales organization too, you have some really, really good, sharp people. And a lot of times they are, some of their natural gifts or their natural proclivities for something like spiritual intelligence or emotional intelligence kind of gets muted by the new marketing push or whatever, or their leaders or their quotas, because everything gets pushed out the window once you have a number. And there's definitely room for this and everything. And I understand why HR is really turned into a go-to for you, because we are in HR, we are struggling to find anything to bring to the table for your employees who might feel a little bit. I mean, there's some damage out there after the last couple of years, whether it's emotional, mental, spiritual, physical. And you have a workforce that a lot of people are feeling disengaged at times. They've been working from the house for 2 years almost. It's hard to build engagement with your employees when it's a virtual environment and they've kind of been through what they've been through. So something like this would be a huge asset for somebody in human resources, because it has a logical approach. It's got great, memorable phrases and concepts, and it's applicable. Everything's applicable. So I think that doesn't surprise me, and I hope some of my HR colleagues really take a closer look at this, because this is a very unique program you have. It's great.
And your website's very easy to order from, because I just got my book ordered, and I'll get it quicker than Amazon. Then Amazon can get it to me. So clearly,
watch out.
Yeah, cancel that.
I Bezos coming after you.
The magic sale.
No, I'm going direct on this one. Well, you made it easy with PayPal. Thank you for that. So
perfect.
Well, Amy, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on today. I hope we stay connected. I'd love to check in with you occasionally, and I'm already thinking, how can I get to be part of this summer experiment that you're having too, which sounds really pretty cool.
Well, so what is it? When does it start?
So it's starting in July, and it's one-on-one private coaching. So it's the assessment where you take it and you see kind of where your skill level is on the 21 skills.
Mm-hmm.
And then we do three different coaching sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a couple weeks in between those to sort of integrate all of the information, because it can feel like a lot of information to sort of marinate in and absorb.
Okay.
So yeah,
I can see this now. Karen's gonna take it. And she's gonna think that she's spiritually intelligent, and I'm gonna hear about it all the time about how no, it's great.
I think it would be funny to see who does better on the assessment. No,
see, she automatically turned it into a competition. She wants to know our scores.
Well, in SQ, we call zeros precious zeros. So
there's so much room for growth.
I think they're just God triggers to have conversations. That's all. Yeah, we call them precious zeros.
Oh man,
I love it.
Don't be afraid of what the level is going to come back. None of it's true anyway. That's always what I say. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Well, you've been a great guest, and I wish you the best of luck. And I think you're right. This is your calling, because you can tell you've got the passion for it, and you've definitely got the knowledge base. So, thanks for coming on and sharing this with the rowdy hardballers of human resources. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I hope we sent some magic to everyone today. So, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Take care, Amy.
Thanks, Amy.